All right, so the next album we're going to talk about from 2004 is from In Flames. It is Soundtrack to Your Escape, the seventh studio album from the Swedish melodic death metal legends. The lineup for this one was Anders Frieden on vocals, Bjorn Gillette on guitars, Jesper Stromblend on rhythm guitar, Peter Ewers on bass, and Daniel Svetson on drums. If I said any of those wrong, I apologize. I tried. It was released March 29th, 2004, 11 songs, 47 minutes, opening with Friend or Fiend, depending how you look at it. They drop in right away with a punchy melodic riff. There's a blend of death metal with an accessible hook that will get stuck in your head. Anders' vocals are both aggressive and melodic. There's a catchy chorus with an infectious energy. Great way to start the album with Friend or Fiend. How do you say it? The R is in quotations, right? So, or not quotations, what is that? It's in
parentheses.
Parentheses. So depends how you say it.
Yeah. I'm a positive guy, so I read it as friend. But they capture a really nice vibe, really good balance overall on this album. They are starting to move into what would become their more modern sound and incorporating more keyboards and stuff, but the riffs are still absolutely fire here, so I'm happy with it.
Yeah, and that started actually on the last album with Reroutes Remain, which is the same lineup as this. So they followed up with The Quiet Place. This is the most streamed track on the album, a little ambient build right into the memorable main riff. Chorus is powerful and anthemic in contrast to the more subdued verses. It's a standout track on the album. What'd you think of The Quiet Place?
Yeah, I didn't know that Jonathan Davis was on this album. That's crazy.
Are you being serious?
It sounds like I'm just dicking around.
Yeah.
No, but it totally, I love this song, by the way. I think it's a great song. But I always got Korn vibes during the verses, just the way that it's something about the way that he's singing. He's doing that kind of whispery type thing. And, Anders already has, like, his accent always comes through in his singing. So he has a unique voice already, and it just, it always reminded me of Korn.
You know, what's funny is I remember thinking that when I listened to it this time, and I thought I wrote it in my notes somewhere, but quickly glancing over, I didn't write it down. But yeah, Korn is definitely...
Yeah, and that's not a bad thing. I love
very
Korn,
much what era Korn? Untouchables era type Korn.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Or Take a Look in the Mirror, that type of era, which is similar to this. Take a Look in the Mirror was probably like 2003 or something like that. So
another cool song is Dead Alone.
Yep.
I feel like the reason I wanted to mention this song is because it's like the perfect use of synths. I love the atmosphere that they create here. It's still heavy. They're still bringing these monster riffs, but they're able to just create this underlying atmosphere that I think is really what's sort of come to define In Flames in the later years. So
yeah, well, especially in this era.
And then on Touch of Red, they slow down a little bit, and that always speaks to me. You get into the slower tempo stuff, and it lets the guitar crunch really punch through. Probably my favorite track on the album.
Really? It's a good one.
And then Like You Better Dead follows that one up. And man, this riff is just tasty. The drums sound so awesome. It sounds like heavy metal from outer space.
The front half of this album is so strong, man. Like every track is really, really good. But it leads into, here we are, what is this, track 6, My Sweet Shadow. There was a big music video for this song, and it really pulled me in. The verses are very melodic, and they build a sense of tension leading into the explosive and soaring chorus. That dynamic switch back and forth is something this band started to become known for at this point. Jason briefly touched on that. But My Sweet Shadow is the best example of it. There's an emotional back and forth internal conflict going on. The electronic elements are really coming through here, but it all maintains a really heavy balance. This is one of the standout tracks in the entire In Flames discography to me. My Sweet Shadow.
And that word, we've both used it, is so important. Balance.
Yeah.
Because they lost that for a little while. And I'm happy to say that they've found it again. But they kind of lost some of the elements that made them who they were.
After Come Clarity, when they started getting into the attic and all them songs.
All still very much intact here. Like, you still got all the sweet guitar riffing and stuff that was going on prior to these albums, but they're balancing it out, adding those layers of atmosphere, adding the synths, adding a little bit of the clean vocals. Like, it just really works.
Yeah, definitely.
But Evil in a Closet is another one that, for me, like, No shit. When this song starts out, it sounds like Duran Duran. And I don't mean that as an insult. Like, there's a really cool vibe to this song, a beautiful guitar solo. I think it's nicely placed on the album. It really breaks up the aggression. So I dig Evil in a Closet. Cool song.
Another good one, and it's followed up with In Search of I, or In Search for I. They bring up the intensity again with blistering riffing and pounding drums through much of the track. The chorus brings in more melodic elements with Anders, and it's another great one. Yeah, Borders and Shading's another good track, followed up with Superhero of the Computer Age, which opens with a high energy riff and a driving rhythm that turns into choppy and aggressive. The chorus is more melodic with layers of vocals, but the fast paced riffing never stops, so it never loses that like intensity as it goes on.
Right. And I think you hit the nail on the head there because the underlying riffing on this song is very old school In Flames.
Mhm.
But there's times where like the guitars just sound absolutely disgusting, but then it still has all of those new elements. And again, it's very balanced, very balanced.
Very clean.
And it's Superhero of the Computer Rage, right?
It is. I think I said age, but it's
Well,
computer
it all
rage.
runs
Correct.
together
Yes.
when you say it. So
Yeah, that's the play on words that they did there.
yeah, I like it.
Dial 595 Escape. Again, back and forth between the more melodic tone and choppy aggressiveness. There's some cool riffing, dynamic shifts throughout, but something about this always felt off to me as a closer. I do like the way it fades out. It's just missing something. I can't put my finger on what it is though.
Yeah. So first on Dial 595,
Yeah.
there's a really cool moment there. It's about a minute and 15 seconds in. The keyboards start doing this almost like trance inducing type of sound. And Anders has like a really strange vocal delivery there.
Mhm.
It's like really eccentric the way that he sings. And I think it's one of the standout songs on the entire album because it's just so different.
Nice.
But yeah, when you get into Bottled, you do have the big anthemic riffing. But what it is for me, because you said something felt a little off, and I agree. And I think it's the vocals are really odd on this one. It seems like he made some really interesting choices in the vocal delivery. So, like, there's parts where it just doesn't work. The opening is really heavy, but the vocals are just kind of meandering noise instead of like the super aggression that we just got on the previous track.
With Superhero, yeah.
Um, it's not a bad closer. I actually think if he would have made some different choices vocally, it could have made this one pop a little bit more.
Well, yeah.
So I don't know. They probably closed it with the weakest song on the album, honestly.
They might have actually. That's one of the weaker ones on the entire album. But
Yeah.
what'd you think of it overall?
Definitely one of the albums I used to play a lot.
Mhm.
But much like the Fear Factory album, it's been quite a while since I really gave this one a spin. It's definitely up there with some of the better In Flames albums. Not my favorite. That honor will always go to Clayman, but it's a pretty solid album and a mostly stacked In Flames discography. Very solid 4.5 out of 6 for me.
Nice. This continues the evolution on the previous album, which was Reroute to Remain. They dive deeper into the melodic and electronic side, which pissed off a lot of longtime fans. But for me, this is actually what brought me in. I like the older style, but this is right in the middle of peak In Flames era for me. You had Reroute, you had Soundtrack, and then you had Come Clarity, and that was a trio that was hard to beat. There's a perfect balance of intense heaviness and melodic hooks. How many times did I say melodic in this review?
Well, they are melodic death metal. So
dude, and they do it great. Anyway, the vocals are dynamically layered, and Anders is enunciating everything clearly. Keep in mind, English is his second language, but you can understand everything he's saying. And I didn't really touch on how lyrically heavy this album is, but if you look into it, it is pretty deep. Musically, the guitar work is clean and intricate. Top to bottom, this is a great album. Close to perfect, but not quite. I give it a 5.5 out of 6.
it's a damn good rating.
It's a great album. Love it.
So you gave me a little bit of skeptical side eye when I said Clayman was my favorite album. So what I got to know, what's your favorite In Flames album then?
If it's not this, it's probably Reroute.
Okay.
This is my favorite era. Reroute.
All right.
Soundtrack and Come Clarity.
So that
I
was
see.
right. That was directly after Clayman,
Yeah,
right?
Clayman was just before Reroute.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that was before Clayman. They didn't really have all the synths and electronic stuff too much.
They didn't, but they started to dabble with things because you have like Pinball Map and
Yeah,
like the first three songs only for the week. The first three
it was.
tracks are great.
Yeah, I mean, and we were kind of all right in the same era. Like
Yeah.
I think we both. I know it's blasphemy for a lot of old school In Flames fans, but they really started to come into their own. Like
Yeah.
with Clayman to me, because that's when everything started to get cleaner. The production was better.
hmm
They started to incorporate like more hooks. And
Well,
yes, I get it. Eventually they took that stuff too far, but they had a nice run of albums where it was just one after the other.
you got to think of when we became fans too, which was probably like 2006, 2007 era. So it's actually after like Come Clarity came out when we became fans and we went back and looked at these albums in a
True.
different light than if you listened to them when they first came out. So
Yeah.
but yeah, Soundtrack to Your Escape was a pivotal album for me, especially for like Swedish death metal and harsher vocals in general. Go check it out.